Okay, hello. So welcome everybody to Escape from the Matrix. This is Arcturus, and today I have a very special guest. His name is Harry, and he's got two YouTube channels. One is Aircrete, and the other one is Experience Within. And Harry is a fellow astral traveler who's been doing a lot of experiments, a lot of technical gadgets to help him astral project. So, welcome, Harry.
Thank you, Arcturus. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you. So, we were talking about the other day that you invited me to your channel to talk about astral projection, and I didn't know exactly what you did. I mean, you told me that you had a lot of astral experiences, but then I was very interested about all the experiments that you are doing, all the technology to help you astral project, and I wanted to ask you if you could explain to us a little bit of how you came up with these ideas and how exactly they can help us to astral project.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, we're all literally made up of energy, right? Mainstream science says if you zoom in to your palm of your hand with a microscope, you'll get down to the point where we're just literally made up of atoms. So, there's no doubt that we are energy. And when we astral project with our energetic body, with our light body. So, that being the baseline, now it's factual that we are literally made of light. So what I've been doing is just playing with devices that help with my energetic body. But the way it started for me was watching the documentary called Thrive. They came out with two parts, but the first part of that documentary is what blew my mind. In that documentary, they show crop circles, and it was the first time I ever heard an explanation of what the crop circles are about. And so when they were showing all these different crop circles, they were also animating them, making a 3D animation of what it was meant to look like. Because we see the crop circles as a two-dimensional image, but it's a two-dimensional image depicting a three-dimensional image or object. And so I was really inspired by that documentary Thrive.
Is
So
that is that on Gaia?
yes, well, no, it's on YouTube. You can
Hmm.
you can find it on YouTube.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's very good. I have a link and under my Experience Within channel. I think it was episode 2. Oh no, episode 1 has all the links for everything I talk about in that documentary. Um,
By the way, are those crop circles, because I haven't watched it, are they supposed to be man-made or alien-made?
they're supposed to be alien made. I mean, the scale of them, some of these crop circles are huge and extremely complex. And they speak about this in the documentary, how when they find these crop circles, they don't see footsteps going into the fields. And then the crop circles happen in one night, and some of these circles might have 1,000 different elements to it, 1,000 different designs. And they also, when they go into the fields, we're talking about the corn fields or whatever type of vegetables being grown is where these crop circles happen. But when they go into those same fields with the meters, they can see magnetic fields, and they see other anomalies that they're detecting using meters that don't happen anywhere else, on that farm. It's just in that one area where the crop circle is. I've always felt like it really was from alien design. Whether they're aliens that are on this planet, because this planet's big, there's so much we don't know about the planet still. And there's, discussion about inner Earth and
Yes.
things like this, which is part of why I want to astro project to explore these things and see for myself. But or they could be aliens from another planet, galaxy. there are many, like if you look at the Indian Vedas, right? They always talk about, they literally say how they were alien species that came from another planet, and they tell you with the solar system and name of the planet, and they came to this Earth. So I'm like, who am I not to believe it when I see these incredible structures built that we can't replicate today? And
Yes.
so, as far as I'm concerned, it's a factual fact that aliens did come to this planet and have helped humanity in a lot of ways. So, you ask me my belief. Yes, I believe the crop circles were made by aliens, whether they're from Earth or space, and their crop circles are messages for us. They're trying to tell us something. They're trying to help humanity advance, whether it's spiritually or technically, so that we're not like burning fossil fuels and things like this, so we can have a cleaner
Wow.
0 point energy, which is something Tesla was working on, and I felt was getting very close. Nikola Tesla, and he was stopped by people with a lot of money who didn't want his ideas to go further.
Of course.
But he was probably the main guy from the 1900s that was actually exploring the idea of free energy and wireless energy. And there's a lot of documentaries on Tesla.
Yeah, he said he would communicate with aliens too at the end of his
Yes,
life.
I was going to say that exact thing next.
Yeah.
Tesla also spoke in his diary, and to people, that he would get downloads. This information was coming to him from another source. He wasn't thinking of it himself, he was being downloaded. And that's something that happens when you are a meditator, when you're a deep thinker, you get downloads. And I've gotten downloads. I'm sure you've gotten downloads,
Yeah, me too.
where I wasn't even asking. I was just in meditation, peacefully quiet, not thinking. And then I would get vivid image pop into my mind of ideas. And some of the ideas I've created.
Wow.
So it's because I work a lot with my intuition, you know. I don't have degrees and things that I do. I study them. I'll watch people who do have degrees. I'll learn from them. And then I use my intuition and prayer and all that good stuff to come up with ideas to build something. And so, but that's me. I'm very intuitive, and I don't, I explore um increasing my intuition to becoming more accurate, and just to listen to spirit, because they have all the knowledge we want. We just have to open our ears and mind up and our hearts, and hear what they have to say. And so what happens a lot of times when you're hearing an outside thought is a lot of people might just dismiss it, like, oh, they don't know why they have this thought,
Yeah.
not realizing they're being guided or information is being given to them at that time. So that's how it started for me with the crop circles. A
So
hundred
so
percent believe they were alien made, and they were giving us a message. And this documentary Thrive, when they made it a 3D animated thing, that blew my mind. And in that documentary, they talk about this shape, the torus shape, right, which is a
mhm.
donut shape, and they speak about how this is in everything from our blood cells looking like a toroidal shape
Yeah.
to the entire galaxy being a toroidal shape. So, since they said everything was toroidal in nature, even our own bodies have this energy field that's a toroid. And the planet Earth is round, and the magnetic fields create a toroidal field. And that's what protects us from radiation, from cosmic radiation.
From cosmic radiation. So I've seen that figure in some of the images of those crop circles, and you said that there's some sort of magnetism when you visit them. Do you think that the shape that was placed on those fields, the shape itself, is the one responsible for bringing this magnetism? Like if you create those two-dimensional shapes that represent three-dimensional or four-dimensional objects. Do you think that has the capability of um, of bringing magnetism that can be used for good purposes?
You know, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about it until you mentioned it just now, because I do know how in meditation we can focus on certain symbols, like the Om symbol, just as an example, and it'll help you. And we're talking about it's just a symbol we're looking at, whether it's a painting, a drawing, or three-dimensional wood carving. We can focus on certain symbols like that and get an energetic response from it. So it makes complete sense that a crop circle with the correct geometry, and being the crops are living, it's water, right? And they're conductive.
Mm.
I think that's a great that's a great conclusion, that the actual geometry of the crop circle is creating this magnetic effect. That's I hadn't thought about that till you mentioned it. That's a really good one. I
Yeah,
like that.
I think pyramids, they work on the same basis. Like a pyramid is like, why would you want to have it like in those angles, in that? Yeah. And one of the theories is that somehow that shape channels ether into our three-dimensional world. Like it channels something from a higher dimension. Maybe that's the tip, and then it crystallizes it on the base, which represents like the denser matter. That's one of the theories that I've come across.
Well, the pyramid, what the pyramid is doing with the geometry of the pyramid, the four sides, and you have two types of pyramids. You have like the Giza pyramid, which has a 51-degree angle, and then you have like a lot of pyramids in India have the 76-degree angle, which is the one like this is the more pointier one. And so what these pyramids are doing is creating a vortex. That shape of the pyramid creates the vortex. So a vortex is just like what you would see when you pull the cork in the bathtub and the water starts to spin to go down the drain.
I love
That's
that.
me too. And that's a vortex. And that spinning action is what the pyramid creates. It
Wow.
creates a spinning action. And that's also what my coils create. These create a spinning action of the energy in the room. In fact, one example I like to say to people is you could look at this as being the drain in your bathtub, right? When
Mhm.
you pull the cork and the water starts spinning, that's what this is doing with the energy in my environment. The energy in the air, because of the geometry of these wires, even right now, it's not plugged in, is working with the energy in the air because we have conductive copper wires that are spinning in this pattern. So this is creating a vortex effect as well. So
Like
that's
a like a
actually
like a
exactly how it
pyramid.
works.
So
Yeah.
so 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 what would be the benefit of creating that vortex in your place?
So the benefit would be to interact with the vortexes that our bodies create. Because we have the seven chakras going down our body, the seven being the crown chakra.
Yeah.
And our bodies at these points, in fact, just a quick note, you can measure where your chakras are by measuring the distance from your palm, because this distance from my palm here, from the top to the bottom, is the same distance from the tip of my nose to my chin. So if I do this, you see my hand fits perfectly in there. And so this is how you could find your third eye. You move to the side. You could use your own, you have to use your own body because you can't do someone else's.
Yeah.
And this is how you can find the chakras exactly where they are. So in
That's
the
so
front
that's
of
so
our
cool.
body and in the back of our body, we have vortexes coming out, as well as through the top and bottom through our prana tube.
Yeah.
There's a vortex of energy that comes out. So we're already creating these vortex fields. When you use devices like pyramids, which is interacting with your own body's energy, and mainly it's interacting with the Earth's energy. It's taking that energy and creating it. So we're just amplifying the Earth's energy and amplifying our own body's energy, which is why it feels good when
Wow.
we're meditating around certain devices like this and my coils.
So the coils that you've created, can they help to astral project?
Yes. So that was a unexpected discovery that I made, because when I originally began creating these coils, it was to explore the idea of free energy, to explore the idea of putting 1 watt of power in and getting 100 watts of power out of the coil. So it's close to free energy, it's very little input and you get a lot more output. And so it was all about exploring that, trying to, figure out how to do this free energy thing. But I ran into issues because I originally, when I started this exploration, I was creating the coils and I was bringing them to someone I knew who was doing the testing. They had all the electronic equipment for testing the meters, the oscilloscopes and the generators that you can change the frequencies from 1 hertz to, the gigahertz frequency range. So we could explore what frequency is needed to make something happen. But that didn't work out with the person I was working with because they were very selfish and greedy. And so I decided to just work with the coils for our biomagnetic field, because being around the coils, I felt better,
Wow.
and there were times I might have a little ache and pain, and that pain would go away. And then eventually what happened is I was selling my coils at vending events along with my t-shirts and different artwork I created, because I literally bought a $15,000 laser machine just to work on this idea of free energy, because I
Wow.
had to make the frames. This one here is plastic, this orange color frame,
Hmm.
but those had to be cut precisely so that I could uh, have the correct geometry and everything like this when I'm making the coil. And so while I was selling my coils, I was keeping them on. Like I would have the large coil on the table, and I had the amplifier, which really made it strong. I had like a 200-watt amplifier plugged in to the coil. Excuse me. So people around me, other vendors that were all selling their own products that had physical pains, would come up to me because they would hear me telling people who came to my booth all about the coils. And they would come and say, I had a pain and it went away. Do you think it's from the coil? And I said, well, how long did you have the pain? Oh, I had it for like 3 months. And it wasn't until you started hanging around me that it went away. Yes, well, that's that's a sign that it was the coil, especially since I had it on high. And so that was just one example, but I had many, many people come up to me with all kinds of pain, because I would be part of meditation groups. I would always go like at least maybe twice a month to a meditation group. And, different people would come and people would have different aches and pains in their body. And sure enough, 5 or 10 minutes next to the coil, the pain would go away. So I figured it's working to help with pain. Because let me ask, are you familiar with acupuncture?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I'm familiar with acupressure and acupuncture, and that's what I do now. I don't go to Western medicine anymore.
Yeah. So in acupuncture, it works with the body's energy fields. When they stick a needle in somebody, they're trying to realign the energy, because we have these fields that go down our bodies, and there's these points. And if you have an energy point coming up and then you have a pain, maybe the energy is going around. And so when they put the needles in the body in the specific points, it's to help realign the body's energy. And it works. And this is why even today in Western medicine, you can get a prescription to get acupuncture because it's already been proven that it really works. And so what these coils are doing is realigning the body's energy field.
Wow.
So without a needle in your body, it's realigning the energy fields. And this is something we were able to prove with a biowell device. You know, you familiar with the biowell device that can
No,
test your it tests for your chakras and it tests your aura field around you. In fact, I'll show you one in a minute.
I'd
It's
love
really
to have one
cool.
of those.
Yeah. And so what we did one time is I had a friend of mine had a crystal shop in the city. And so she was having an event where a lot of people were coming to the shop and we were doing tests with these coils with this little one. And what we did was I put it on the 528 hertz frequency because I have the frequencies on here.
Hmm.
So 528 hertz, which is considered the DNA healing frequency. And so people would do a before test of their chakras and aura. Then they would go to the back of the room. They would hold the coil for 5 minutes on that frequency. And then they would go back and take another test to see what their chakras are doing. And we had 20 people, and everybody's chakras were aligned and balanced, like in 5 minutes. It didn't affect the aura field, but it affected the chakras.
Wow.
And the woman who was doing the testing, she gives you readings, you know, like you go and you get the test, and she tells you everything about yourself. And she did that for me, which blew my mind because she didn't really know me very well when she first did this test. And she told me about my life that I was amazed. It was like she was living with me, how accurate she was with the information. So she told me she never seen anybody's chakras be aligned like that in such a fast in 5 minutes. She says she's seen it after someone does a deep 30-minute meditation, they're able to get their chakras aligned. But for 5 minutes, it was incredible. And so that
Wow.
was the one time I was able to get some kind of testing done before and afters. And so it was a proof to me, besides me feeling the effects, it was proof that other people are feeling it and it's having a positive effect on them.
Okay, but how can you use that? I mean that's I would already have to want to have one of those. So you're gonna have to tell me more info in the end of how I can get my hands on one of those. But I want to know um, how are you using them to astral project to have out of body experiences and what tell me a story of how what you felt.
Well, the everything I was saying was to say when you go to astral project, and if you go to lay down and you feel uncomfortable or you feel pain, it's going to be very difficult to project because you might leave your body and instantly feel the pain in your body and it'll snap you back in.
Mm.
And so it's difficult. So the first step it's doing is if you have any aches and pains, it's making you feel good. You know, it feels nice. The feeling is because it's aligning your body's energies. So that's the number one way it's helping people in the astral projection. So basically what I learned is that the pyramid in Giza, the slope, like I mentioned before, is a 515.1 degree angle. So if you measure the angle of the pyramid, that would be it. And so that angle is the frequency that I used because the pyramid is vibrating at that frequency as well, because that's the angle of the pyramid. So that angle is also the pyramid's frequency. So what I did just a little bit of backstory. I have a I have a friend who told me a story about her having an astral projection moment where she left her body. She had two guides on either side of her holding her arm, and they guided her to the pyramid of Giza in Egypt. And what they did was they laid her down in the king's coffin chamber. And she said, when she lay down in the chamber, and above her was like a Stargate ring with the hieroglyphs on the sides, and she saw like a Stargate that she was about to go through before her kids woke her up. And so she was very upset because she was about to go somewhere. But when she said that, it just resonated with me. And so that's when I started investigating the pyramids and learning later that the pyramids, this was one of the things that was used for, was to help people leave their body, because that chamber, the king's coffin chamber, is made of granite. And that granite has crystals in it, quartz crystal. And quartz crystal has a piezoelectric effect. The quartz crystal is the only crystal that I know of that creates light. It creates energy when you squeeze the crystal. Or if you take two crystals and you just smack them together in the dark, you'll see sparks and light come out from the crystals. And one more example is these lighters
Oh, yeah.
have a quartz crystal chip inside of them. So when you squeeze the trigger and that spark comes, the spark is coming from a crystal chip inside. So this is important because we're talking about energies, and now we're talking about crystals, which is from out the earth. Mother Earth creates these crystals that affect us positively. And that's why so many people use crystals in their spiritual practices. But they might not understand the full potential of the crystals as
Wow.
far as them releasing energy and stuff like that. So what I ended up doing was I took my large coil as an experiment and I put it under my bed on the pyramid frequency. And when I did that, I lay down to do my meditation to leave the body. And I never had it happen so fast for me. Within 10 minutes, I feel like my entire body was ejected. My astral body was ejected out of my physical, but I was still attached by my shoulders and head. But I could feel like, say this is my head, I could feel my legs like floating, like they were thrown up in the air. Yeah. You could feel it in the astral room. You could feel your body, your hands, your feet. And so I was like, holy cow. And that was the first time I used it for astral projecting. And I had to, I got back in the body. I didn't leave. I was probably like that for like a good 2 minutes. And when you astral project, you'll see 2 minutes can be a long time. So I was there. I was just floating. I was trying to get the rest of my body out, but this was all new. This was a new technique, and so that was the first time it happened. And so after that, every time I went to astral project, I always put it under my bed, under the box spring, and it it just helped me get out of the body so much quicker. And because again, this is all energy. I'm getting my energetic body to leave. And so what I feel is happening is not only is it aligning my body's energy, but I'm also amplifying my energy. And this is something I've been practicing for a while now. It's not only with coils, but charging my light body. So like as an example, one of the techniques I do before practicing leaving the body, OBE, is I'll do deep breathing practice, right? When you breathe deeply, you get oxygen into all parts of your body, where our normal breathing is not the same as when we do a meditative deep breathing, because then you could feel your body getting tingly when you breathe deep, even just 30 or 60 deep breaths, you
Yeah.
could feel tingling. And this is good because you're charging your light body. You actually, I always recommend to people, don't eat if you're going to astral project, because when you eat, you have food sitting in your body and it makes you feel heavy.
Mm.
And so you don't want the heavy feeling. So I would, when I really want to try and project, I would fast, even if it's just for the day, or I fast and don't eat lunch and don't eat dinner. Like, it doesn't have to be like a few days fast, even though I've also done that. But even, just skipping 1 or 2 meals helps you charge your body because, well, I don't want to get too deep into it. I'll stop there for now. But that was my experience with the coil. The very first time, I almost ejected out of my body,
Wow.
and the other ones I got out easy, but it wasn't not like that first one. Like, I felt it. I was like, whoa! It was so unexpected of a feeling. It was really cool.
So you sell these coils?
I haven't made any coils in a few years since I moved out of New York. When I lived in New York, I was making them all the time. I've probably made hundreds of coils and sold them. So it is something I am preparing to do again because I have a slightly new design
Hmm.
that's going to make the coils even more powerful than previously. Because I had some testing done where intuitive people who uh they use pendants, they have different pendants, and
Hmm.
they're always practicing asking their higher selves using pendants for answers. And so I got some answers about my coils energetically from a few people that I respect who do this very often. They do all kinds of testing around the world, and they're very advanced testers and very advanced with using their intuition. I have a male and female people that I know who are very powerful, and so I respect them a lot. And I asked them about the coils, and I asked them some other ideas, and so I have some, as far as I'm concerned, confirmation that when I make these slight changes, it's going to massively improve these coils. And so that's my goal, is to do that. And just so you know, I do have everything I need now to build them,
Wow.
except building a new machine that makes the wire. I still have my old one, but I need to build a new one because the new wire I have is comes on much bigger rolls. Like the machine I have that you might have seen the video of,
Yeah.
had smaller rolls of wire on them. So I just need to make a new design so I could fit my large rolls, because I purchased last year almost $4,000 in copper wire
Hmm.
so I could make these coils.
So I mean, and you got all of these ideas from meditating.
Yeah. So
You
some of it was thinking when it came to the design and how to make the frame. And I say that because this frame was very complex to make. I'll share a picture. It's easier.
Yeah.
That the frame is very complex. Because I was designing it around a crop circle, but crop circle is just like I mentioned, just a two-dimensional thing. And so I'm thinking to myself, how do I make it three-dimensional with all the different layers? Because that coil I just showed you has two in one. So there's two coils, one outside of the other. And I'll share a picture in a second. I'll find it. And so it took me about 12 or 15 hours to figure out how to do the design. And that was me thinking. But Then I also use the intuition, which is actually what told me to do that, you know? So it's wild. Like I'll get intuition says, do this, and then I think about it, and then I'll come up with the solution. And so yeah, I'm inspired by spirit to create these.
Wow. So
And
basically, your third eye is connecting to the world of ideas, Plato's world of ideas, or the Akashic records, because the information is out there. It's in the fifth dimension. It's in the mental world within the fifth dimension. And and when we meditate, you know, because I also meditate, and especially when I go to nature, that's when I start getting the messages and intuitions. And I know what you mean. It's out there, and it's just that most people just dismiss it because they want to focus on the logical, analytical brain. Because unfortunately, that's the way our society teaches us, right?
yeah, no, exactly. 100% agree with you. So that's this big one. So you could see the inside
Wow.
and figuring out how to do this years ago when I figured it out was it was I was very happy I got it figured out. And here's the example of the toroidal fields that we have in us. And actually, I said I replicated this one off a crop circle. That was actually a different coil I'll show you a picture of. This coil was modeled after the human biomagnetic field, which is the male and female coil that we have in us. Not coil, but toroidal field.
Hmm.
And so this was modeled after that because I could program two frequencies at the same time with this coil. So I could have love and healing frequency and the pyramid frequency, or I could have the Earth Schumann resonance frequency and love and or the sun's frequency. That's something I used to like to do a lot as well. Is I would have the Earth's frequency, which is 7.83 hertz, and I would also play the sun's frequency, which is 126.22 hertz. So it's very powerful. You really gotta play with these coils to really feel them. And so that's just a close up. And I'll just show you a few other images. Here is the frame. This is one of the frame designs. And I used to use, well, I still do. I use string. I wrap the whole coil in string, which is extremely complex, wrapping these coils
Wow.
because
Yeah.
you could get dizzy. And if you make one mistake, you have to redo everything. And that's happened a few times. And it
And you
got to the
can't
point where I focus when I do it.
you can't use a machine to do that for you.
It's impossible. There's
Wow.
not a machine. Maybe Elon Musk new robot because it has hands. Because you need hands to do it.
Hmm.
You need hands. Maybe that machine will do it, but there's no other machine that can wrap these.
How long
They
it takes you?
oh they can take hours. It depends on the size of the coil. It could take hours just to wrap it, and then I have to connect the wiring. It's a certain wiring pattern that has to be done. But you can see these are just uh, some of the models out of wood before being wrapped with the rope to determine how much copper wire I need. Like
Hmm.
for example, this might be 300 feet of wire, but that's 300 times 24 because there's 24 strands of wire in one. And so you can see how it quickly adds up to a lot of footage. And this is actually one I just found. I just, you know, being prepared for this interview, I was looking for some other devices, and I just found this one was still in my shipping container. This is one that I made here that has a magnet in it. It has a neodymium magnet. This magnet you see right here in silver
Hmm.
has like 100 pounds of magnetic force. So a very powerful magnet. And
Wow.
that's one I'm actually still working on. I got to finish that one and just to do tests to see what happens. Because that's what I do. I'll make a lot of different variations, different designs, and compare them how they work with the energy.
That's just wonderful. I mean, I'm pretty sure the amount of hours that you need to make them and also the materials and everything, they're not gonna be cheap, but I'm sure I'll want to have one of those.
Yes, they're definitely not cheap since the prices went up. Here's an experiment I did because you can actually listen to music through the coils when you prepare them the right way.
Hmm.
And so here, my idea with the headphones was to put the coils in so I could hear my music and I could feel the energy vibration from the music. And I don't put just any regular music. I'm putting usually meditation music or Gregorian chant music. I don't know if you're familiar with Gregorian chants like
Yes, I
they do
love
all
it.
that singing. Yeah, me too. And so I put positive music through there, or even like Mozart's or something like that, because those frequencies have been proven to be beneficial to the human body. So I would do experiments of all sorts. And this here is like when I'm sitting down to make the coils, this is me making a bunch of them at once, preparing to make them. So like all of these, you can see the wires sticking out still
Hmm.
because it hasn't been finished yet. And this is not this is another coil. Um, and you can see here's an old frame design. This is like the first one I made of the small versions because I was
Hmm.
trying to make it inexpensive for people. So I would make small ones. Um, anyway, and this was the final design that I came up with because I had the hand grip here, you
Yeah.
know, it has the grip so you could hold it. And I would meditate. I would mostly meditate with the small one because I would bring this to work with me because I could put it in my bag. And I also had this little magnet. And when you put the magnet over the coil, you could feel the vibrations.
Oh.
If you're sensitive enough energetically, you could feel it with your own hand. But a lot of people weren't sensitive, so I give them a magnet and they hold it, and they would vibrate for the different frequencies. But that was a very soothing vibration as well to feel that vibration. And
Can,
again, everything we do and everything that exists because of vibration.
so, Harry, thank you so much for this information. And everyone can follow Harry on his YouTube channel, which is The Experience Within.
Yes,
Is that correct? Yes,
yes.
and he's also known as Aircrit Harry. He's got two channels. And all right, so thank you so much, Harry, and we'll see you soon.
Taurus, thank you for having me, and it's been a pleasure. I
It's
hope to
been,
see you very soon in the future.
it's been a pleasure.